Hey friends, okay, so today's video, I'm gonna just kind of sit down and have a chatty video with you guys. It has been a while, I feel like, and I feel like everything has changed in such a short amount of time, and I just wanted to chat with you guys. I know you guys are feeling it too. Everybody is feeling what's going on with the coronavirus, and the effects are so crazy. And so I just want to kind of chat about that, talk about homeschooling and no mass and kind of helping others what to do, and really whatever else the Holy Spirit leads me to. But before I get into homeschooling and no mass and all of that, I just really want to encourage people not to be afraid. Truly and honestly, do not be afraid of this time. So we're living in a time that I've never lived in before. I've never had anything shut down like this, and I think most people haven't. And I know it is driving a lot of fear within a lot of people. I get a lot of people on my Instagram who are messaging me and just saying that they're really afraid and nervous about the future and all of that, you know, their jobs and their health concerns. A lot of people going through chemo, a lot of people who, you know, their children are out of school and they don't have a backup, you know, for babysitting or anything like that. There's just so many different scenarios of why people are in fear, you know, and that's totally completely understandable. I think that when we are feeling those fears, we have to remember that God is King of all kings and that He is in charge of our lives. He knows what to do. He already has a plan in place for you. He talks about how He watches over the sparrows and makes sure that they're fed, and how much more He loves us than the sparrows, you know, the birds. And I think that's so important to remember, that you are loved and you are God the Father's child, and that He is going to take care of you. So even when the world doesn't make sense, when there's all this chaos and, you know, people are kind of drawing this fear within you, do not fear, because God is near you. He is bigger than this virus. He's bigger than, you know, if you're going to lose your job or if you're in chemotherapy. He is bigger than all of that. What has helped me to not be fearful, because I do not feel fearful or worried about the future or anything like that. And you might say, well, yeah, your circumstances are different, you know, but I do feel like, you know, if you're a mother, there's a fear there, right? There's different things that are fearful to different people. But I will say that if we are praying a rosary, we're reading scripture, if we are in union with God, we should not have that fear. There should be a supernatural grace within us that doesn't make sense. But God is taking care of us, and we should know that within our soul. So I just encourage you that if you are having this fear, that you turn completely to God. Do not listen to the world. Shut the world out if it is driving you, you know, insane and scaring you, because that is not of God. God wants you to be in union with Him, and He has so much grace prepared for you. You just need to ask for it. And I encourage you to read the daily readings, but also to pray the rosary. Like, truly, honestly, pray the rosary. And you might be saying, well, I don't know how to pray the rosary. I don't pray the rosary very well. I can barely sit still for the rosary. Still pray the rosary. I have videos. You could do it with me. There's phone apps, but pray the rosary and dive deep into the different mysteries, and just Mary will help you. She truly, honestly will. And if you pray a rosary and you're still feeling, you know, like I still have anxiety and fear, then pray another rosary. And if you still have another one, pray another rosary. Like, you can pray up to 4 rosaries a day. Heck, you can pray 10 rosaries a day if you wanted to, but there are 4 different mysteries. So you can pray more than 1 rosary a day, and Mary will bring that grace within you. You know, I do encourage you, if you can, go to confession. I know a lot of priests are still hearing confessions. That will ease your anxiety as well. And if you don't, then make sure that you are doing your confession with God, you know, just you and God. You should ultimately go to confession, but pray and ask God for forgiveness, and your anxiety should be melted away. So anyway, do not fear. Do not fear. If anything, pray, 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 continually pray, and that is how that anxiety, that fear will melt away. And it truly, honestly will. When you're in union with God, there should be no fear involved at all. Even if it is to the point of death, which hopefully that is not the case, but it should always be giving it to God, surrendering to God. So let's talk about homeschooling next. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I live in a state, I live in Virginia, and the governor shut down all the schools in Virginia for the rest of the year. And so, which means that it's pretty much homeschooling for the rest of the year. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that that's kind of been my heart's desire, is to homeschool. So it's a little prayer answered. However, it's definitely different than I thought it would be. So my son Thomas was going to a Catholic school, and which that is a whole nother story. I'm like, oh, I'm paying tuition, and he just got into the school about a month and a half ago, and you know, we're still paying tuition and I'm homeschooling. So it's just like one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's kind of hard to deal with because finances are really tight and stuff. So, but his teacher is doing e-learning, and so I'm pretty much homeschooling. She's giving all the assignments, and a lot of it is online and stuff. So it's pretty good. I mean, I obviously have to like check his work and stuff, but for the most part, he is pretty good. Now, Jacob is in the school system, and they don't really have anything set up. So thankfully I have what's called Brain Quest, and my kids begged me to get Brain Quest. This was at the beginning of the year because their school was just honestly really too easy for them, and they really wanted to be challenged. So they asked me to homeschool them after they got home from their other school. So I got Brain Quest for both of them for the next grade up. And so Jacob, I've been doing his Brain Quest with him, and he also does ABC Mouse, which is an app. And it kind of crashes if he does ABC Mouse after 10 a.m. I think all the kids are probably doing ABC Mouse at that time. So if he does it first thing in the morning, and he only does it for like 20 minutes, but they're really good lessons actually, and they are really teaching him that sort of thing. So I'm kind of doing Brain Quest, and I'm also doing that, and I'm just trying to like teach him, and he is learning new stuff. So I think that it is helpful, and it's good for me to know that he is learning new things and stuff. It's really good to have that like one-on-one time with him, and also with Thomas. Now, it is interesting because my husband, he's working from home now, and so he is helping homeschool. So I know that's not normal, but my husband is doing a lot more with Thomas, and I'm doing a lot more with Jacob. So I know there's a lot of my subscribers out there who actually do homeschool, and if you have any advice, please write them in the comments, because me and a bunch of other moms are just new at this. Like, I just kind of got thrown into it. You know, I didn't do a lot of research on it or anything. So if you have any good advice, please let me know in the comments below. I have a lot of friends who do homeschool, and so they gave me a lot of good advice. They pretty much told me like, homeschooling doesn't mean you're homeschooling like 8 hours a day, which I thought that's what you do when you homeschool. And they said, no, it's actually only like 2 to 3 hours, because you don't have all like the in-between time of like moving from one subject to the next and type of thing. They said it's really concentrated, like 2.5 to 3 hours, but that it's not as long of a day, which I have noticed that is true for me teaching Jacob. That, you know, first thing in the morning, I get ready, I do my prayers, I let the kids be all silly, do their thing. What I've noticed has helped me, because a lot of people are asking me on Instagram, they're like, what do you do with your little kids? Because I have 4 children. So the 2 older ones are in 2nd and 1st grade, and so the 2 younger ones, like, what do you do with the younger kids? So if you have any advice, please write it down below what you do. But what I have done is I will have Jacob read to the younger kids when I'm working with Thomas. So that's when he does his reading. He'll read books to them. Usually I'll let the kids just play for a little bit, as long as they can, and then I'll have Jacob read with them. And then I'll switch and I'll have Thomas read with them well, I work with Jacob, if that makes sense. And sometimes if it gets crazy, I'll let them play with ABC Mouse too, because they do have learning games that are for their age level. And so I'll let them play that once in a while too. But they're pretty good playing by themselves. I feel like having the two older kids here kind of thrown them off, because they're like, oh, we can play with them. And I'm like, no, actually you can't. Like, I need them to do their work. I know a lot of you have sent me information on curriculums and stuff, but we're not quite that far. Just because I don't know if the schools at this point are gonna bring us like maybe e-learning things. And so I'm kind of waiting that out to see what they do. But I personally kind of love that they're home. I mean, there's definitely hard moments where I'm like, ooh, this is hard. But I also know I'm in the honeymoon stage of like, all right, let's do this. You know, I'm very motivated every morning and stuff to do it. But I know that it's hard. I can see how I've heard so many of my friends say that there are days that they just don't want to homeschool anymore, that they're just done and they're over it, you know, and stuff. And I totally feel like I get that. Like, just it is challenging, you know, to be with your children all the time in that intense moment, you know, those intense moments and stuff of you're just like, okay, focusing on learning to read and write and, you know, math and all of that. So it is interesting. I definitely know I'm still right now in the honeymoon phase of like enjoying this stage and where we're at right now. Okay, so then I'm gonna talk about Mass. So about a week and a half ago, I did a video about how I'm gonna go to Mass as long as they have it. Me and my family will. And so we went and there was hardly anybody there. And we go to a big parish and it's usually hard to find seating. And so we went and we like drove in and there was hardly anybody in the parking lot. And so we both look at each other like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So we go in and there is hardly anybody and everybody is very well spaced out, you know, past that 6 feet mark and everything. There was plenty of room. And it was very eye-opening about, you know, where our state of life was, you know, and it made me a little sad because it made me worried that I wasn't going to get to go to Mass the next week. And sure enough, the next week, our Archbishop said that all the parishes in our diocese is closed. And so that was very interesting. So we definitely, you know, set up Mass. Our church did Mass, you know, on the TV and stuff. And so we did that. We set up a little altar. We put candles up. We did like, we set chairs up as if we were at church. So it wasn't like we were on a couch. We had the kids dress up as if they were going to Mass. And so we treated it the same way. We ended up doing everything, and then we did spiritual communion as a family as well. So and I could not stop crying during that time because I think it was only the 3rd time in my life that I've ever missed Mass. And the first one, I think I was in like junior high and I was really sick. And the second one, I had a C-section with Thomas. It was like a emergency C-section, and so I didn't have the Eucharist or Mass that day. And so this was the 3rd time, and I just like, it was very emotional and hard for me. And just to think that, you know, I might not get to receive him for quite a while is very hard. And I know that it is for a lot of you as well. I know that that is something that is very painful and hard. And so anyway, it's a very unique state that we're in right now. And I talked about how, you know, holy obedience and how important that is and stuff. And so anyway, I mean, we will continue to do that until we can go to Mass again. But just wondering, did you guys all do that? Did you go to Mass? Like, I know EWTN has Mass, and there's places all over the internet that you could do Mass with each other. But I encourage you that if you do, that you do the spiritual communion as well, because that is really a powerful prayer and stuff. So anyway, that is kind of just an update on my life, but I'm very curious to know how you guys are all doing. I pray for you guys all the time. I know that, you guys have poured your heart out to me through emails and you know, messaging on Instagram and all of that. And so I just want you to know I'm praying for you. I have great hope for you guys, and please just know that God is in charge. He is. And I do find it very interesting that this is all during Lent, and you know, maybe this is God's way of like kind of putting ashes on us right now. You know, like this is like the time that we truly need to surrender to God, and that's really I think important during Lent anyway, is to surrender. And you know, my family, we have been indoors pretty much the whole time. We thankfully have a beautiful backyard, and we have a trampoline, thankfully, my mother-in-law gave us like 2 years ago. So the kids, you know, after we do homeschooling, will go out and jump, and they'll just jump for a long time. We do go on a lot of family walks now, and so it's so interesting. It's just such an interesting time in our life, isn't it? And I don't know what God has around the corner, but I know that that whatever it is, He will always be in charge. He is completely in charge, and all we have to do is curl closer to Him, and He will honor and love that. He loves us all so much. And anyway, I hope that you all are doing okay, and that God is giving you a lot of peace and joy within this time. I hope that you're making lemonade out of these lemons that we're getting, and that you're just growing closer to God and to your family and all of that. So anyway, until next time, I will see you all later. God bless. Bye.